Hi there. Today we're going to explore the plot of the 2024 film, The Luckiest Man in America. An outcast from his family, a loser working as an ice cream truck driver, decides to participate in a TV quiz show with cash prizes. He sets a record for the number of wins in the history of the show, while the program teeters on the brink of bankruptcy. Everyone tries to figure out who he really is, a genius player, a cheater, or something entirely different. The events of the film, based on real-life events, begin on May 19, 1984. Travis Dunn, along with other contestants, arrives at the casting for the show Press Your Luck. He presents the organizers with a souvenir plate, but due to his unkempt appearance and the use of a fake name, he is not selected. However, producer Bill is impressed by his straightforwardness. He catches up with Travis in the parking lot, where the man is unsuccessfully trying to start his ice cream truck. Bill tells him to clean himself up and come to the shoot the next morning. That's when he learns that the man's real name is Michael Larson. Michael heads to a thrift store to get a jacket. After tearing off a button, he first negotiates a discount and then sews the button back on to look like $1 million, which he plans to win. The next morning, in his squeaky ice cream truck, he sets off to conquer television. At the studio, a girl named Sylvia takes the contestants on a tour of the sets with various shooting interiors. When they reach the pavilion for Press Your Luck, Michael steps aside to take a look behind the scenes, but Sylvia brings him back to his place. While waiting for his turn, Michael, along with the other contestants, watches the current show being recorded. Then he goes on stage with Ed and Janie and meets the host, Peter. The players take their seats and the recording begins. First, there are the audience's applause, prompted by the director's cue. The host introduces the contestants and where they're from. The rules of the quiz show are simple. The host asks a question, and the first to hit the button gets to answer. The other players can either agree or offer their own version. A correct answer gives the right to 3 spins, while agreeing with the correct answer grants 1 spin. An incorrect answer brings nothing. First question: at what age, according to research, do crow's feet appear around the eyes? Janie answers first, 40 years. The others agree, and it's the correct answer. Second question: in what form is President Roosevelt in everyone's pocket? Michael rushes with his answer and gets it wrong, saying a $50 bill instead of a dime. On the question about gestures, Michael answers, a nod, and the others agree. On the fourth question, about who is responsible for ensuring the minister gets paid at a wedding, Michael answers first, the best man. Thus, after 4 questions, he earns 5 spins. Before the second phase begins, a break is announced, and Michael exercises his wrists with a hand expander, preparing for the next round. After the break, the contestants are positioned in front of a massive screen bordered by prize panels. A light signal alternately highlights these panels. By pressing the button at the right moment, players receive whatever prize is on the highlighted panel. They can also pass their turn to rest, hoping their opponent will land on a bankrupt space. Michael gets the first chance. He stares intently at the screen, where lights flash in a seemingly random but consistent pattern. When he presses the button, he wins $2,000. Then he wins another $1,500 plus 1 free spin. However, the third attempt is unsuccessful. All his points are wiped out. Disappointed, Michael bursts into profanity, causing a hitch for the production crew. They now have to censor his foul language in a children's TV show. A staff member reminds the contestants that such language is unacceptable. Michael apologizes, and the turn moves to Ed. After Ed's successful spin, another break is announced. The players are allowed to go to the restroom, but Michael asks Sylvia if he can make a call, claiming it's his daughter's birthday and he absolutely has to congratulate her. The girl permits it, but no one answers on the other end. After the pause, the second round begins. Michael, as the player with the lowest score, starts spinning first. He immediately wins $4,000, then another $5,000 and a free spin. Continuing to hit the button at the right moment, he earns several more $1,000. The production crew is pleased, as is producer Bill, who sees potential in the hapless man as a hero capable of boosting the show's ratings. Michael doesn't stop, increasing his winnings with every spin. The host advises him to stop to avoid losing everything in a bad spin, but Michael remains adamant. Keep pressing, pressing, and pressing again. When he reaches a record $28,000, Michael still doesn't consider stopping. Sensing something suspicious, Bill orders a commercial break and asks for the host to be brought over. Meanwhile, a jubilant Michael invites the makeup artists and other contestants to dinner to celebrate his impending victory. Bill tells Peter that there's something off about this contestant. The producer wants to stop the game, but the rules don't allow it, so he advises the host to scare Michael with statistical probabilities. Returning to the game, Peter tells Michael that statistically, one of the next 6 spins will bankrupt him. But Michael decides to keep going. He's enjoying feeding his winnings to the size of a small country's budget. Bill then asks casting director Chuck, who initially opposed Michael's candidacy, to find out who this guy really is. While the show continues, Chuck calls the number Michael provided on his application and learns that he drives an ice cream truck. In the parking lot, Chuck finds Michael's vehicle and starts looking for a way to get inside. A security guard with a crowbar, who took an immediate dislike to Michael, lends a hand. Chuck finds a restraining order against Michael issued by Lyle. Calling Lyle, Chuck learns that Michael used to run financial pyramid schemes, similar to scams. Among the items Chuck illegally confiscates is a whole bag of videotapes. On all of them are recordings of Press Your Luck episodes taped over family home videos. Starting to piece together the reason behind Michael's phenomenal luck, Chuck heads back to the studio. He observes how the player is intently watching the movement of the flashing lights on the screen. Chuck goes to the control room, where he asks the operator to rewind the last spins and show a close-up of Michael's face. He emphasizes the focus on Michael's eyes. The player is meticulously tracking the light patterns and pressing the button at the perfect moment. The thing is, the game only uses 5 movement combinations, and it turns out they're not that hard to memorize, especially when you have dozens of recorded episodes to study. But such an approach is hard to classify as outright cheating. During the break, Sylvia hands out branded t-shirts to the other contestants, apologizing that they won't get a chance to play due to the prolonged streak of the first trio. Taking advantage of her absence, Michael calls his wife to congratulate his daughter, even though making calls during the show is strictly prohibited. He gets caught in the act by an animator in a mascot costume. Meanwhile, host Peter calls the control room to remind the organizers about the home spin, a special rule that allows the game to end if it has been running longer than the scheduled time. In that case, a random person also receives the last prize along with the player who made it to the home spin. A lucky person for the home spin is selected based on a card. When Michael opens it, he sees the name Lyle Roberts, one of the investors he had previously scammed. Realizing that the organizers have discovered his past, Michael gets nervous. Nevertheless, he manages to win a vacation at a 5-star hotel. He has one last spin left, but a spotlight shines directly into his eyes, blinding him and preventing him from clearly seeing what's happening on the screen. To sort out the lighting issue, a break is announced. During the pause, Michael complains to Ed that the organizers are messing with him by choosing Lyle as the lucky winner. Donna enters the control room, bringing Kaufman with her. He is furious about the discovered flaw in the 5-algorithm system, which now threatens to cost the TV company $70,000, the exact amount Michael has already won. When asked who let him into the game, Bill sheepishly lies, saying Chuck was responsible for the casting. Meanwhile, Chuck has cornered Michael as he steps outside to stretch. He hints that he knows about his method and, threatening him with arrest for fraud, asks who he was calling. A shaken Michael flees the studio and heads to his van. But crafty Chuck has already returned everything to its place. Hearing the sound of the car alarm and noticing the broken lock, Michael realizes that his vehicle has been broken into. He approaches a nearby police officer, but after learning that several patrol cars were called to the studio, he fears they are there for him. Michael walks away, pretending to look for his car in the parking lot. But when he is eventually spotted, he hides inside a pavilion where another show is being filmed. The host, mistaking Michael for a guest, invites him to the table. During the conversation, Michael admits that he came to Hollywood not for money or fame. He just wants to have breakfast with his family. But due to his strained relationship with his wife, the only way he can be in the same room with them is if the TV is tuned to the channel where he is currently being shown. The conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Sylvia, who has come to take Michael back to his pavilion. The audience in the studio greets him with loud applause, which does not go unnoticed by the TV crew. They even turn off the applause sign. Chuck enters the control room to find out that Bill has pinned the entire financial fiasco on him. The operator interrupts their argument, noting that for the common viewers, Michael has already become almost a national hero. They believe he's just phenomenally lucky and the network can use that to their advantage as a publicity stunt. The management decides to continue the show, allowing Michael to keep spinning. Offended, Chuck notices the phone from which Michael first made a call. He dials the last number. On the other end of the line is Patricia, Michael's wife. Meanwhile, Michael's winnings surpass $100,000. The host puts the call on speaker, throwing Michael off balance. The conversation ends on a sour note. His wife scolds him for his obsession with gambling, asks him to sign the divorce papers, and hangs up. Distraught, Michael takes off his microphone and leaves the studio. Peter goes to the control room where he blames Bill for ruining the show. However, Bill insists he never gave the order to call Patricia. To fix the situation, the producer goes to Michael. He's locked himself in a room, sobbing over his miserable life as a loser. Sylvia and Ed try to persuade him to return to the game. The producer says, "Michael, you've become a star, a national hero, the luckiest man in America, and it would be foolish to miss this chance by refusing to finish the game over a meltdown." Michael agrees, but on one condition: he wants to call his wife first. However, he never musters the courage to dial her number. When the contestants return to the studio, Peter reminds them that Michael still has one spin left. Unexpectedly, Michael decides to pass his turn to Ed, who had supported him throughout the game. The audience applauds this decision, while Bill, whose plan to make Michael a star has failed, angrily smashes the commemorative plate he had gifted him. The organizers decide that after the mandatory broadcast, they will never air this episode again, burying the story in oblivion. In the final segment, Janie passes her last spin to Michael. He looks at the screen, closes his eyes, and shouts, "Stop," pressing the button. 2 weeks later, when the episode airs on television, Michael's wife and daughter watch it together. The viewing is interrupted by Lyle, who wants to take the girl to school. After seeing her partner off, Patricia returns to the TV. She watches as her ex-husband methodically racks up winnings, feeling somewhat relieved that he has finally found his place in life. In his last spin, Michael wins the final prize. When the host asks what he plans to do with such a heap of money, Michael replies that he doesn't know yet. The film ends with archival footage of the real-life game show featuring America's Luckiest Man. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.